Hello, everyone. I'm your host, The Power Trip, and welcome to another wonderful week of the next issue. This week, I thought I would cover just a few more differences between the comic book and the TV show of one of our favorite TV series, The Walking Dead. Now, to get us started, I'm going to begin with one of my favorite characters, which is going to be very amusing, seeing as how this is probably a lot of people's least favorite character, and that's Morgan. You see, Morgan's had, in both the books and the show, a pretty rough time of it. Though in the comics, he has had a little bit nicer of a lifestyle than he did in the show, which is a huge thing for the, if you ever want to compare the two, is seeing who's had a better life in the long run in the shows as compared to the books and vice versa. Now, Morgan's time in the comics is way different than what he was portrayed as in the show. In the show, you get to see the beginnings is pretty much roughly the same. Rick ends up running into him and his son's shovel face first there. Fully pun intended there, everybody. But Rick helps him get get on his feet, I should say, and gets him armed and gets him going and leaves him behind as he goes to Atlanta. Now, in the books, he later comes back to retrieve Morgan and his son. By this point, Morgan's son has been killed by zombies, which does also happen in the show, but it's with a couple of different, actually, I think one particular different character than normal, and it definitely doesn't go the same way. When Rick and his group find Morgan when they go back to get him in the show, he's about lost his mind. He's completely by himself. His son is dead, and he's gone. I won't say completely crazy, because honestly, this is where I relate to Morgan in the show. This is probably the part that makes me love him so much, is in the show, he does what one of the ideas I've thought about doing in a zombie apocalypse, and that's taking a section of the town that you are based out of and basically making it completely zombie free and just spending your day making sure that you have that section. Just go about the town, your town and whatnot, you know, make sure it's clear. Well, in the comics, Morgan has lost his son the same as he did in the show, but he has kept him around as a zombie and is actually killing people and feeding them to his kid. Rick comes back for him, and he actually goes with Rick and the group on, like, out of town on their way to Alexandria in the long run and everything, as opposed to in the show where he decides to stay behind and then later goes off on his own and inadvertently ends up following Rick. It just happens upon Alexandria later. So there's a very big swerve there in what happens with his son. In the show, Morgan's got this big thing going on with him wanting to be all about peace and capturing people and trying not to always be murderous, whereas in the comics, he actually was more focused on his relationship with Michonne, something that also did not happen in the show. And of course, for those of you that are really curious out there, in the comics, Morgan has been dead since the zombie horde attacked Alexandria. He was bitten in the arm, Michonne cut his arm off to help save him, and he ended up dying of blood loss. Now, one tidbit here to carry over with the show I will mention is that he does start to try and help Carl not quite be such a homicidal, basically killing everybody he can child, in hopes that he can make up for what happened to his kid. And this is something that kind of plays on the peace thing we're seeing on him in the show. I would say that we're probably going to get a similar death for Morgan later, only not fully with the zombie thing, but maybe. But anyone who's read the books knows Negan has a kinship, I should say, with Carl, and wants to kind of raise him as his boy and teach him the murderous ways of Negan. And this can be seen as Morgan's attempt to do for him what he couldn't do for Rick and turn Carl away from the dark side of the Force, so to speak. And of course, Morgan getting killed because of this. This is all speculation, but just going by how they like to keep a few things similar, but not always the exact same, to keep things fresh between the books and the show. Another big one I want to point out is obviously a huge one from this season, and that's Abraham. Boy, if you ever want proof that a character can become insanely popular in one medium and it keep him alive in that medium as opposed to an opposing one, it's Abraham. Everyone loves Abraham. I love Abraham. This guy's amazing to watch. I love the show more for him being on it. But anyone that watched this season knows that there was a big scene that happened straight out of the comics, and he was not the one that had it happen to him. In the comic books, Abraham goes off to help hunt for supplies and such, and has somebody else with him, and ends up getting an arrow through the back of the head. Well, anyone that's been watching the show knows it was somebody completely different that got that arrow through the head, which leaves Abraham's life/death up for grabs in the show. Now, no one knows, is he going to, basically when he's going to die. The next big one being, is he one of the multiple recipients that may get bashed in by Negan's bat at the beginning of Season 7? There's a lot of speculation there. And this is where the big play, one of the reasons I wanted to make this my current topic, comes in here, is everyone knows who died in the comics to Negan's baseball bat. Let's just get it out there. I've already spoiled enough things. It was Glenn. And, of course, Glenn is there at the end of Season 6 in the show, but there's so much speculation of who it could be, and so many reasons. They have deviated from the comics in so many different ways, and so many people are alive that should not be. Of course, so many people are dead that should not be, but so many people are alive that definitely shouldn't be at this point, that I'm pretty sure this is where they were going when they went with this differing between the comic and the show, was they knew they had to keep the ratings up and keep it fresh. And even if they make it Glenn, and you're going to have a lot of people out there, I know you guys are out there, they'd be like, I knew it was going to be him all along. But even if it does end up being the same guy it was in the comics, the key here is they did a really good job of introducing doubt, because of how well they've deviated from the books with the show. Everything from Rick's daughter still being alive, to Morgan being alive, to taking characters that were one way in the book and making them completely different in the show, whether it was to kill them or to fuse character ideas together into one character, to even inventing a character that was never in the book. So the big question I have out there, and I think I'm almost positive I've asked this before, is, so I will actually narrow it down just in case I have, is, what do you guys think of the difference between the books and the show? I personally like the idea of them differing so much, because it does keep the show fresh. I mean, if I go to watch a movie, let's say I go to watch The Dark Knight Returns, or Civil War, Marvel Civil War coming up, I want it to be as close to the comic as they can make it. Now, given with Civil War, that's going to be pretty much impossible for many reasons. So I'll take what I can get there. For the Superman vs. Batman movie, obviously it's not going to be exactly off of The Dark Knight Returns. That would be wonderful, and obviously I have my own favorite casting for that I I'll get into that one on a different day. But I prefer to keep my movies as close to the book's storyline as possible. If they're not, as long as the story is told right, that's all I care about is a good story. My TV shows don't always have to be that way, because if you're going to make something that's going to last a long time, you cannot go word for word out of the book, because at that point you might as well just go read the book. I mean, yes, it would be awesome to see this wonderful scene out of your book happen. And for the really big scenes, that could still occur. But for the little things, and of course, as a lot of businesses know, for the ratings, you gotta do something to keep it fresh and keep it unexpected. And if you do something 100% by the book, it's not unexpected. So you gotta do something to keep it fresh. So I personally am actually a huge fan of deviating from the source material for TV series. I said a movie, a one-shot deal with a movie. I want you as close to the source material as possible. That's just how it is. For a TV series, I can give some leniency there. Mostly, like I said, because you're going in the long run, and I want to see something I've not seen before, or if I'm going to see some big epic scene like Superman versus Doomsday or something in a TV series, then by God, there better be some really good scenes that I can look down at the splash page in my issue of Superman 75 and look up at the show and be like, oh man, that's exactly what it looks like right there. Well, that's going to be it for me this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's issue, and I will see you guys next week for another issue. I'll see you then.